Thank you very much for this opportunity provided and the nice introduction that you have given about me. In fact, I was also wondering, under the changing circumstances, it's very necessary. Library is the core of the institution. I can say it's a heart of the institution. If that is not functioning okay, then the rest of the system is not in its proper shape. That's what the understanding. More so in the present situation where there is a lot of changes that has been taking place on, especially in the 2020 NEP, higher education has changed quite a lot. NEP has envisioned beautifully n number of issues, and for each of the problematic issues of higher education, NEP has found a solution and put it in the policy document. There's no doubt about the intention and the beauty with which various issues have been dealt in the policy. It should be appreciated. At the same time, one should also keep in mind that policies have come since 1947, and in the 86 policy and 92 revision, there was also enough effort put in for ensuring that the higher education system is improved to the best of the capacity. In the Yashwal committee, it's much more beautifully articulated, saying about how the Indian higher education system can be improved. And for doing that kind of a thing, in Yashwal report, it's also solutions are also placed in. We are also aware of the National Knowledge Commission under the Sam Petroda. There were enough materials, letters written to the then Prime Minister, Professor Manmohan Singh, how the various sectors of the education can be improved upon. But at that time, I must say, though I read all the letters, I did put one question at the end: what does that mean to an implementer? So, though there were n number of good recommendations all through in the policy and the National Knowledge Commission and the Yashwal Committee report and the various other committee reports from time to time, it could be M.V. Mathur Committee, it could be Jnanam Committee, it could be various people, eminent people's committee which wrote report on. Every person, every committee worked on how the gaps that are existing due to the changes that are taking place from time to time can be plugged. This was illustrated by all the committees. But then came the issue of its implementation. We must understand there is a lot of difference in the Indian higher education system and the other developed countries' higher education system. In Indian higher education system, one thing we must understand, that there is a large number of colleges affiliated to the higher education system. Because they are affiliated, yet they are distantly located, still it comes under the same Vice Chancellor, same university leader. There was a time, now it is much better, but there was a time Bangalore University had more than 900 colleges affiliated to it. Imagine a Vice Chancellor, how difficult it is for the Vice Chancellors to think of the colleges, visit the colleges, do the corrections and rectifications, look into the loopholes. It is humanly impossible. Under such circumstances, higher education was moving on and on. Yet, we as Indians, we should be proud, and we are proud that large number of Indians who qualified from these higher education system are today heading various important positions, be it in USA or in other countries. In fact, recently I received a WhatsApp message, how many CEOs, be it Google or Microsoft, are product of Indians. And similarly now, under Joe Biden's leadership, how many Indians, and that too women, are taking different positions in the US administration. All this gives us a confidence that yes, we are able to do it, we have done it. In case if we were provided an excellent atmosphere, then probably we would have done it still better. But invariably, people often say that motivation doesn't last. Well, we must understand, neither does bathing. That's why we recommend it daily. Beautifully Zeiler, nicely said, Ziggy Zeiler. People often say that motivation doesn't last. Well, nothing does bathing. Neither does bathing. That's why we recommend it daily. What we think, what we know, what we believe is in the end of little consequence. The only consequence is what we do. This is what John Ruskin said. Earlier, higher education was important for training individuals in terms of developing creative and critical minds, to make them good citizens by ensuring all-round development of an individual. Higher education was considered as the responsibility of the state. It was the service good, they used to call it that point of time. But now, higher education is seen as an investment in human capital. It is run into the market and is viewed as a commodity. So we call it commoditization of education. It is viewed in terms of cost. Once it becomes commoditization, then it is viewed in terms of cost, benefit, and returns. But changing world over in education and its impact on India has made much different situation. There is a widespread macroeconomic changes all over, even in India, such as culture-based consumerism, decent growth in national income, more and more private investments in education, public-private partnership, emphasis on cutting-edge practice-driven research, diversity among types of institutions, changes in curriculum, content, programs, courses, etc., etc. Changes in student structure also, and the excess also. When I say changes in student structure, there was a time it's only the house and the upper class and the upper middle class and above used to come for higher education. Today that's not the case. Today everybody wants higher education and certificate. And in the process it so happened that private institutions have come up in a big way. For that, the government has also facilitated private and public partnership. This change in understanding has given rise to change in the perception, attitude, very thinking of education policymakers, planners and administrators at all levels, students, parents, and teachers, and all other stakeholders in terms of public-private participants. Why I say like this is, there was a time, I don't remember, my parents went to college to check where I was and what I was doing. But today that's not the case. Because there is a heavy investments made by the parents to the higher education system. If you sit in a private college, you can see how many parents visit every day to the college to understand what's going on, whether the teachers are going to the class, are they doing the right thing, whether their children are progressive, what kind of a job they will get, and A, B, C, D, E. Because investment in higher education is seen as an investment as human capital. This is a crucial step in advancing the growth of knowledge-based economy. Thus, energy is divided into producing global citizens who may be comfortable in visiting, working, and living in diverse conditions and countries. That's what today every parent wants. When they educate their students, their children, more so when they put them into professional education, they expect the student after completion of the education will go to either further higher education or get into a job abroad and bring a good name to them. That is the kinds of things. But at the same time, this situation has created certain kinds of apprehensions, fears, and confusions as well. Because shifting structure of societies from industrial economy to knowledge economy is in itself a challenge. Industrial economy had a limited requirement. So education would prepare the students for a particular industry with a particular knowledge and limited knowledge of skill, and that was sufficient to go and get into a job in an industry, and the person would continue for a longer time. But that's not the case today. Today the case is totally different, that the student who is prepared for a particular knowledge, prepared for a particular job with a particular knowledge and skill may become obsolete. The whole knowledge and skill may become obsolete very soon. The person has to change it faster. He has to unlearn the certain things, relearn and relearn. Not only unlearn and relearn, but also has to practice the new skills that are needed for a new type of industry and a new type of job. Under such state circumstances, there is a moral apprehension whether the state can abdicate its responsibility rather than understanding the situation, a criticality of the situation, of its preparedness towards attending to the changes and its implications. These kinds of apprehensions, fears, and confusions are there. Also, it is necessary that certain compromises that the institutions are making to meet the stakeholders' demands and its impact on the system, institutions, students, and the quality of program and the product. This sentence I am making with a great caution. I read it again. That is, compromises that the institutions are making to meet the stakeholders' demands and its impact on the system, institution, student, and the quality of program and the product. We said that public-private participation has become an order of the day. There are a large number of private institutions that have participated in the higher education system today. And also there is a large number of institutions which have got the autonomy. When they have got the autonomy, there is always a fear whether X institution is doing it in what way and the Y institution should do in which way. Because once you make a private participation, the students have paid very high fee to enter into a program, enter into a course. If they are not passed, there is a big risk. If they are passed, there is a big risk. So, in all, it becomes the responsibility of the private institutions to ensure that the students put in hard work, study well, they are tested properly, they are evaluated properly, and the output that when they come out, it is based on the outcome. I must again reiterate that in any educational institution, input, process, output, and outcome are very important. Till last, we used to only consider passing is the end of it. No, it's no more. Today, what is it that the student has taken knowledge and skill along with it, him or her, as an outcome which is beneficial for him to enter into a job or get into a higher education is more important. If we keep this, then there is a typical phenomenon of higher education system in India which has developed recently. And that is, because of this, there is an increased diversification in terms of participation patterns. Various groups within the population, for example, the participation of women, the participation of SCs, STs, religious minorities, and even disability persons have become pretty large. So the kind of phenomenon that's coming up in higher education today is there is an increased diversification. And it's also necessary to understand that this kind of a diversification across regions, it could be rural, urban, metropolis, states, and union territories. And it's also interesting to observe that modes of provision of courses, whether it could be online, open learning, correspondence, distance, MOOCs, face-to-face, all these have become the part of the higher education system. It's all the more true under the COVID system for last 1 year. All those institutions which were not hitherto used to or practicing or giving online education have also entered into online education system. If you see all this, higher education system has divided all these into two broad categories. Number one, the institutions that are meant for scholarly pursuits and achievements. And number two, institutions that prepare students for the workforce requirement. So if you see that, it is now recognized that the dichotomy between 1 and 2 should be erased by adopting more holistic approach. Thus, the function of higher education system in the modern world may be to seek and cultivate new knowledge in terms of various ways, to interpret knowledge and belief in the light of the new needs and discoveries. When I am making these kinds of a statement, I think it's very necessary for every faculty member, every academician, and every employee of the higher education institution system to understand and analyze and introspect what I was doing till last and now, how the changes have come, whether I have prepared myself to accommodate those changes, and then to impart education to the students so that they are able to benefit my teaching and learning. So, to interpret the knowledge and belief in the light of new needs and discoveries is another important thing. To provide the right kind of knowledge and skills in all walks of life. If I have to provide the right kind of knowledge and skills in all walks of life, first I have to prepare myself as a teacher to enter into those walks of life. Once I am successful, only then I can impart that. And it's also necessary to include the youth of all sections of society to develop their full potential. In a classroom, there are varieties of students who sit together. So what I deliver as a lecture should be acceptable, understandable, and made use of by the students. That's very important. Only then my teaching is a successful teaching. It is also necessary for me to, as a teacher, to cultivate right interests in students and develop right kind of attitudes and moral and intellectual values in the students. That's all the more important. And to strive to promote equality and justice. These are some of the important things. Further, including the youth of all sections of society to develop their full potential. It is easier said than done because I have seen students who coming from different backgrounds. For example, the first generation learners will have certain difficulties in getting into learning mode in comparison to second and third generation learners, because the first generation learners have absolutely zero atmosphere at home for learning, whereas the second and third generation learners have already got that ambience and atmosphere at home, so it becomes easy for them to There's a kind of platform, there's a kind of level at which they enter. That is how it becomes easy for the second and third generation learners. It's also necessary to understand the role of the society and helping to cultivate right attitudes and interests, moral and intellectual values, and striving to promote equality and justice, reducing social, and it's only then reduction of social and cultural differences are possible through diffusion of education. Disseminating this kind of an understanding throughout the society and applying it in the service of mankind is a great challenge. And finally, striving towards assisting the institutions in their attempt at qualitative improvements. Universities are essentially a community of teachers and students, we all know that, where there is a continuous mutual learning takes place and they strive to do so continuously. Quality assessment attained a greater significance over the period because the privatization entry made it obvious that the public participation and funding would reduce day by day and the private participation would increase further. And if that has to be done, quality assessment became essential. That is how accreditation was made mandatory by the UGC and funding was connected to the accreditation. It became essential for the institution to be accredited to receive the UGC funding and all benefits associated with the accreditation. Impact of technology advancement on common man's awareness regarding the institution due to availability of data on the websites. Imagine, there was a time people would go to the institution that was nearer to them. Today that's not the case. They go through the website, find out which institutions of what quality, whether my studying in a particular institution would help me or not. Or is it necessary for me to study a course in a institution only, or as an individual who is trained and has an interest, I take some course from here and some course from there, those which I can put together, whether these are possible is another opportunity. So that is where I said in the beginning itself that the national education policy has provided all this information. And today the website gives the institutional credibility and institutional performance in a loud way so the student can access to this data. Based on the data, they can make a judgment about whether I go to this institution or that institution. I should also tell that when I am talking about the higher education system and the institution, library is not an exclusion. Library makes the major part of the institution. I remember I worked in National Institute of Educational Planning and Administration at New Delhi, where we had an excellent librarian, wherein there was a time our library was visited on Saturdays and Sundays by the best of the people from the Ministry of Human Resource Development, Planning Commission, you name an institution, Department of Science and Technology, ICAR, ICMR, or any other for that matter. You will be surprised. Our librarian was so passionate that you have to put only first step in the library, then she would ensure that you won't leave the institution and go away till you are served better. She was taking such a keen interest in the library to the extent she made it so popular, even the nearby countries, when they visit India, Delhi, they would definitely visit the library of Nepal. I must also say the importance of library, if anybody has to understand, if you go to Harvard University, I was astonished to see that the kind of people, the students and the parents who used to come to Harvard University, and there was a separate visit, tour arranged for Widener Library in the Harvard University. First day, when I went there, first month, I did not understand what is that. So after a month, I went and joined this tour program. I was astonished to see that what are the luxury items that are available in Widener Library. When I say luxury items, luxury in terms of needed for entertaining, encouraging knowledge from the library. So, Widener Library was an experience. And similarly, I said that librarian, the key role that the librarian and the library assistants play in the higher education system's libraries makes a lot of difference and makes it a place of attraction where people have to come. And what are the various programs that these libraries have charted to ensure that people who come to the institution make it a point to visit to the library? I remember my librarian would, any journal, anything that comes to the library, that she would mark it, and she would only say, not like other librarians who would say, Madam, your article has come, or your area article has come. No, she wouldn't say like that. She would say, I have a surprise for you sometime, and you come only then it will be shown. And you go to the library, what is that she shows? The part that is interesting to me, which I must read. So that is how she drew everybody there. And inside the library, she used to keep flower pots, she used to keep various mementos, and she would beautify the library. Every month there would be a totally different decoration. It would be a place of attraction where every person would definitely ensure that they go to the library. Library has different roles, but it depends upon how interesting the librarians and the staff of the library make it, that it matters. So I'll come back to the higher education system, and there I say that impact of technology advancement on common man's awareness regarding the institutions due to availability of data on the websites, this has become possible. So competition for intake of students has risen. Now institutions are fighting amongst themselves to take the students. All the more, the right to information and right to education has provided legal interventions to ensure that suppose if I am cheated and not given this seat, I have the right to ask for this. All the more, there is a further danger that has come to the higher education. There are certain policies of school education which says that students should not be failed up till here, and only then, after the 10th onwards, they can continue. But that has created some problem in the higher education system. But now it has been reverted. They have said there has to be test there as well. Today, this institution products have started more moving towards interstate, interinstitution, and inter-country mobility has started. It has also started. Globalization has its own impact. Privatization has a very high impact. Technology advancement has made higher education system more challenging and more competitive. And for the teachers, life has become really as though they are starting it again. They have to learn many things. All these are important to ensure employment promotion, activities of the employers in the higher education institution, soft skill development, and other needs of the students have become all the more important. So, With all this, today there is a demand for excess with success, quality in quantity, equity and equality, efficiency and effectiveness, equal opportunity. Equal opportunity, when I say, I would like to elaborate a little bit. Mere putting an institution somewhere is not an equal opportunity. It is an opportunity to go to the building. Equal opportunity is not that mere putting a teacher there and he giving 1 hour lecture. No. That is also not an equal opportunity. Providing an equal opportunity means it is putting an institution with beautiful infrastructure, with the right kind of faculty, with the most recent knowledge and skill-based faculty, and that faculty teaching me and testing me properly is the equal opportunity. Mere putting schools or colleges here and there doesn't make any opportunity. It only provides one building. So if we want all this, then it's all the more necessary to have lack of recognition, which is more important. That is what is to be seen, and it is also necessary to ensure that the people who are appointed have the proper qualification. Institutions and the teachers have dignity and status to take care of all these. Several legislative reforms have been suggested by the Government of India, but how far it has been successful is yet to be seen. There were many bills passed earlier, but those bills are implemented or not is an issue. So now the higher education system of India should secure global respectability and the enabling our outputs at competent levels with anybody else. It's also necessary the output and outcome should be comparable to other developed and developing countries. To compete in the open market, these are necessary to face the global challenges and for contributing to the development of India. Hence, today, massification is the focus all over. And in doing so, it is necessary to reduce the social and cultural differences through diffusion of education. Universities are essentially a community of teachers and students where all learn from each other and strive to do so all the time. To all this, they said, quality assurance of higher education is necessary. In doing so, the accreditation councils came into existence. We have NAAC, National Assessment and Accreditation for General Education, National Board of Accreditation for Engineering Education. Like this, several accreditation agencies have come into play its role to ensure the quality standards. But in India at present there are many more councils. The Distance Education Council is there, which has no more now. Indian Council of Agriculture Research is there, which does for Agriculture Council accreditation. Bar Council of India is there, which does for legal education. And National Council for Teacher Education is there for education programs. And Rehabilitation Council of India for that sectoral people. Medical Council of India is there, Pharmacy Council, Indian Nursing Council, Dental Council, Central Council of Homeopathy, Central Council of Indian Medicine, Veterinary Council of India, and so on. All these were meant for sectoral institutional accreditation and give a stamp of quality assurance. But did it went okay? We do not know. In the national policy, they have found a lot of changes that they have made, and those changes are very important to be understood. We know in the earlier, we used to have the fragmented higher education system. But in the policy, they have mentioned about multidisciplinary universities and colleges. Why I am bringing it is these are really important moves that the national education policy has spoken about. It needs to be implemented, and if it is implemented, definitely it helps the system in a larger way. Similarly, there was less emphasis on the development of cognitive skills and learning outcomes. But today, in the NEP speaks about revamping of curriculum, pedagogy, assessment, and student support for enhanced student experiences. Every sentence which I am talking here has a direct impact on the library, whether the library and the library books and the library infrastructure that they have created and the staff that is there in the library are prepared enough to understand these things, and they do make the modifications in the library and are able to attend to the needs of the students and the faculty is a challenge for the library. Similarly, earlier there used to be a rigid separation of discipline from one to another. There was a narrow area only, but today it has been changed to moving towards a more multidisciplinary programs by which students are able to specialize not only in one small specific subject and area. Today they can master, specialize in more than one area also at the undergraduate education. And similarly, in the new education policy, they say they will create an educational institution in every district to provide increased access, equity, and inclusion through a range of measures. They also say that moving towards faculty and institutional autonomy is one of the major policy changes that they have suggested, but I should not hesitate to put my words here, because having done a large-scale study of all the autonomous institutions in the country, starting from the universities to the colleges at that point of time when I completed the study, by which I have published more than 2 books and maybe more than 20 papers on autonomy itself, granting autonomy, taking autonomy, implementing autonomy is not just the black and white put in the papers. It requires a lot of efforts. There are institutions, best of the institutions, which are not willing to go for autonomy. They are very comfortable to take the name of the university and say, I'm an employee of that university. I don't want to be an employee of a small college. Similarly, I have interviewed the vice chancellors at that point of time and went and asked the vice chancellors, like Delhi University vice chancellor, I asked, why is that you did not grant autonomy? He was the one who was also a party to write the autonomy scheme. He beautifully put it, and I liked it the way he said it. He beautifully put it and said that if the best of my colleges are gone away as autonomous colleges, what am I doing here, having so many not that quality colleges with me? I would like to have best of the colleges under my regime. So similarly, just as the teachers are not interested in going for autonomy, the administrators, the vice chancellors are equally not interested in. The state government is another thing. It is coming, because granting autonomy means it is state, university and the institution, UGC. All these have to participate equally and grant autonomy. It is also true that if you see that the colleges have to have the expertise to take autonomy and implement new programs and all that. Until and unless that is done, it doesn't make the autonomy just by taking one autonomy. I must also bring in my experience here about the autonomy. When the Christian missionary institutions were granted in Tamil Nadu, All of them joined together, one became a leader, and all the institutions followed the same rules, regulations, policies, and curriculum. What is the use of such an autonomy? Autonomy was granted to make every institution become different, competent, and ensure that they make the best students out of their college. So, it is very necessary that all these programs should facilitate skilling the unskilled and making them employable, enabling teachers and students to resist unwanted politics, stress, value conflicts, and corruption, filling the gap between the skills that are in demand and in which is imparted, streaming the regulatory and legal hurdles that are responsible for major delays and disappointments, and removal of disparities across different states, regions, and sectors. You see that reaffirming the integrity of faculty and institutional leadership positions through merit appointments and career progression based on teaching and research. This is another policy recommendation which is certainly very good. They also say that establishment of a national research foundation to fund outstanding peer-reviewed research. Also, actively seed research in universities and colleges. They say that they do provide helping hand. Governance of higher education is another challenge that the new education policy has looked into, and they say that it will be light but tight regulation. Greater opportunities for outstanding public education, and the UG education is increased. They say medium of instruction will be in Indian languages. Here again I might have to put an interpretation. It's good. Yes, giving education in Indian languages is good, but India is accepted all over the world because of our English education, and if we get into regional languages and Indian languages, then the students who study in Indian languages will be differentiated between the students who study in English language. It makes a lot of differences. It also talks about online education and the kind. So when we see all this, it is obvious that it tells about quite a lot of things that are to be done in the institution. When these many changes are taking place in the institution, the question is, what is it that libraries are doing? Are the libraries prepared for that? I remember when we were writing about when I was assisting the pay commission, 5th and 6th pay commissions, at that time we did conduct a study going from library to see how much of the usage is made by the faculty, the library documents and the journals and books and audio, video facilities provided in the libraries. To our surprise, we find the more and more of teachers, they are comfortable on their laptops and sitting in their own places to look into all these journals and books on their laptop only, because those facilities are available today. The technology advancement, information access, and speed with which they are able to access all these things and at their desk has become more advantageous. As a result, those who are excellent in English language competency are able to make maximum use of library on their desk. But then, I must also say it has its own disadvantages, because library provides a place, just as for the sportsmen, the sports ground provides an opportunity to meet like-minded people. Similarly, the library is a place for all those people who are studying and interested for meeting like-minded people. Library is a place. Similarly, it's a passion to go and see what new has come, because it's not possible always in the computer to search for what new has come. You go to the library, there are certain libraries where they, at the entry itself, they keep those books that have come newly. And it's really, at least every passionate learner has a tendency to open that book, see who has written, and if not the inside, at least the first and the last page to understand what goes inside the book, and then ask for that book. That is another thing that has happened. It also provides a space for the like-minded faculty to interact with the people, to get into the discussion, to see what kind of an innovations and ideas are emerging from different thoughts and people. Also, it is an opportunity, because I remember I met best of the people in the Delhi University Library and Jawaharlal Nehru University Library and Nipa Library and many other libraries which I visited during my PhD. And it is those people, I call them mentors, senior most people who were serious in education, would sit in the library and study, and to the extent rest of the libraries have created space for them, because they are ones who make use of the library maximum, and they are also on search of students who are very serious about studying. So the kind of mentor-mentee relationship develops, it develops only in the library, and I met best of the people, and I have no hesitation to say that unknown people to me, I had gone from south to north, and I didn't know anybody there, but it's only these libraries where I spent large amount of time could facilitate my entry into the quality of job and the various jobs that I have taken place. It's a meeting place for like-minded people. Also, it gets into association, and I remember two of my friends, close friends today, I had not spoken any time while they were visiting the library. They had seen me, I had seen them. I liked them, they liked me, but interaction was not there. After completing our PhD, after getting into a job, then one fine morning, a friend of mine asked, "Are you not the same Sudha that you used to come to the library at 8:30 in the morning?" I said, "Yes. I was also used to come there at 8:30 because that was the most silent time." And imagine the person goes and sits in the World Bank and asks whether I would like to come and join the training program. There are many things that library can give, which is subtle, which is continuously working, and which doesn't require any influence and kind of thing. It's only you are depicting your passion for learning and training yourself, and how serious you are in the job that you are doing. That's another thing. Also, I must also say, on the lighter side, there are quite a bit of love making might have also taken in the library, because students meet there, it happens, and library is a place for studying, and the more attractive the librarians make the library, that makes it more beautiful. And I might also say, people may talk about, "No, madam, these days everything is available in the computers." Yes, it's available, but skill doesn't sharpen by sitting in the computer. Many things needs the practical experience. So for that, going to the field is essential. Just as for a sportsman, going to the sports field to play and feel. It's similarly for every academician. Going to the library is the most sacrosanct. It's like going to the temple. People who have not visited library cannot be, and are not academicians at all. I have no hesitation to say that, because today everything is there on the computer. That's what they say. But then, sitting on the same computer in a library ambience and library atmosphere is totally different than sitting on your bed or your room in a place is totally different. Studying with a proper ambience makes you totally different. And these days, I do not know how the libraries are equipped with. I assume that they are equipped with better for audio, video, and various other facilities that have become common for learning. Maybe that if they are all provided in the libraries, it makes it all the more better. After discussing so much about the higher education system and the National Education Policy 2020, I must bring in some aspect of library which is considered the heart of an academic institution. Library is a medium for the current exchange of ideas, not just for finished collected wisdom. Prior to before its coming, the ideas to come in the form of a printed document, there could be and there would be lot of discussions that takes place and might ripe the discussion to such idea to come to such a level which makes it necessary to write. I would say that library would be a place, I call it non-verbal communication. When people come from different parts of the country, different parts of the institution, different discipline people come to the library, we do communicate. It is called non-verbal communication. We are telling to each other, I am like you. I like to be in the library. I like to read in library. And I am an academician. These are unsaid words which is spoken when we sit in the library, when we enter the library, when we interact with the library. Library services are one of the most widely used and accepted in the modern world. I have also seen, not so much in India, though there are libraries in India also, community library, but in America I have visited several community libraries which are so good, and people find it as a place of center, and the librarians make it an activity center for public to come and spend time there. To the extent I would not hesitate to say, there used to be large number of books they put on every Sunday in a cardboard box outside for just $1. You can pick up any book you want to. Those that are little old will be put in there. To the extent I got several books from there every year when I visited USA. Academic community, particularly in a university, utilizes library service for research and teaching purposes, and it is generally supported by the library. Therefore, library is rightly regarded as heart of the institution. University library is a library or a group of libraries established, maintained and administered by a university to meet the needs of its students and members of the academic staff. It's a collection of so many documents. It could be printed, audio, video, and in various formats. Different libraries have organized themselves in different way, but I have yet to come across the librarians getting into competition, saying that mine is better than yours, and that kind of a challenge. The day librarians will start, maybe that becomes a greater attractive place for everybody. Library is a vital organ for proper exploitation of our intellectual resources. Libraries need to focus on access and speed, because I cannot get the book after 10 years. No, I am a library. If I want to serve my people, as soon as it comes to the market, it's my responsibility to reach to it and provide it to my teachers and my institution students, so that the knowledge generated and new ideas that are pumped into that document is available. And proactivity is needed for the librarians. That is most important. The attitude of the librarians makes a lot of difference. So it's very necessary to collect unique materials and unique formats of materials which attracts the people. The circulation through mouth, it goes, that particular document, that librarian is good and that library keeps all these things. These kinds of facilities provided in the library, and all the more it's important because now with the new education policy, that many of the things that are kept in the libraries may be outdated. It's high time for libraries to weed out all those outdated documents that are dumped in there and enter into the various new ways and means and new formats of documents that should reach to the people at the earliest possible, if at all we expect national policy to be implemented in a faster way. It leads, once we do that, it leads for bringing institutional effectiveness. It helps in enhancing the professional values in users. It helps the educators. It helps in terms of space, and it helps to provide the manager to get the knowledge that is needed, and it gives the kind of satisfaction to the person who uses the library that it is for me and I am better than others. Until and unless we get into these kinds of things, probably today under these circumstances, we do not know, especially I do not know, whether it is the teaching activity is more important than the library activity, or it is the library activity that is more important and the teachers and students are surrounded by them. So if all this has to be done, it's very necessary librarians and the head of the institution should go hand in hand. It is necessary for the heads of the institution and faculty to go to the library often. It's also necessary that the teachers should give assignments to the students based on library facilities, so that students refer to, students look into, students go, more number of students go to the libraries to fulfill those assignments, to write those assignments, and to ask the right questions, to give the right assignment. It becomes all the more necessary for the teachers and faculty to go to the library also. It's only when the activities are geared in such a way to reach to the most recent developments, it's obvious that the library becomes unavoidable to ensure NEP becomes a successful and the higher education system is improved to such an extent. Thank you very much. Thanks for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.